You still have to follow all those same rules as the permit holder.
Are you saying you can carry it without a permit?
Yes, yes. And to further complicate this slightly, forever Ohio has been an open carry state. So I am open carrying right now. I came in here, you can see that I have a weapon on me. I'm not hiding it. That's not concealed carry. All the permit stuff we're talking about is for concealed carry. If you want to carry something under your shirt so that people can't see it or have a coat over it, that's concealed carry. If you want to walk around like a cowboy with a gun on your hip or like, that's legal in the state of Ohio. Always has been. Not a good idea, but legal. Okay? But the stuff we're talking about is permits, the concealed carry permit, and you can, as I said, if you have a permit, you can carry concealed, but you have to, if confronted by an officer, you have to let them know that if they ask, you have to let them know you have. That's about as simple as I can break it down for you right now. I had two questions. Wait a minute.
Yeah, I just wanted for anybody who didn't stop by, we do have gun safes in the back. We're working with the American Academy of Pediatrics, trying to keep guns out of the hands of children. We're the local doctor society, so if you're in need of a gun safe, please stop by. We've got a limited amount of stuff.
Yes, ma'am.
With concealed carry, you can't carry loaded.
Concealed carry, you can carry a loaded weapon, yes.
Just for the car that you're not loaded.
Car, on the street, yes.
And let me just say this. Brett has been sitting on the public safety committee for how long, you said?
7 years.
And how many of these bills have come through public safety? A lot. And there about to be some more. Because I think Brett Williams has a bill now to make it legal to do what you just said and get some money. So, yeah.
So let's take this back to uncomplicated. If you are carrying in a vehicle, some of these same storage things, you can use the gun locks like this. You can then keep it in your center console with the gun lock. There is specific cases that you can buy that are made to that either you can do it yourself or any place that does any vehicle work, and you can put like biometric locks and have the gun so it can stay locked in your vehicle. I mean, obviously it's a big deal. We get this a lot. So we have people that will report their gun stolen because they left their car in the driveway unlocked, usually unlocked. I know that's surprising. Yeah, usually unlocked. They're not breaking into the car to get it. They're just going and finding the unlocked vehicle. You check 10, 4 of them are going to be unlocked, and 2 of those are going to have a gun in the center console, under the seat, sometimes laying on the seat, and people will get their guns stolen. So don't leave your guns in your car. This is like having a child in the car, a child safety seat, right? Don't forget you had to take your kid to school and leave them in a hot car, right? Mistakes that. Know your gun. There's responsibility. This is a ownership of a cat, of a child, of a gun. There's a responsibility for you to get trained and for you to be observant and for you to be knowledgeable about what you're doing. If you're not willing to keep your gun safely stored, don't get a gun. Don't keep a gun. There might be people who come over your house. Don't leave guns laying out around your house. It's just not safe. And there are laws against it. We have a law in Maple Heights, and there's safe storage laws. If you leave a gun out and somebody comes over and does something bad with that weapon, you can get charged with a crime for an unsecured weapon. Do not, so there are storage things for your vehicle. There are storage things for your house. Please use them. Anytime you have any questions about those, you're welcome to come to the police station. We would love to talk to you beforehand about it rather than coming to some sort of incident after the fact, whether it's a stolen gun or, God forbid, a shooting that has a tragic situation to it.
And a lot of the kickback that our representatives they receive is, especially here in Ohio, the fighters, they always think we're trying to take their guns. We're just trying to make sure things are safe, education behind it. Liz, how many states, we are like one of 4 that does not have safe, secure storage. About 5. There's not a lot of them. Simple laws to pass. Like I always tell people when we speak, if we go to Walmart right now and every one of us take an hour, we'll find a car unlocked with a gun. That gun will be used either in school crime, community crime, drug deal, whatever the case may be. So the things that we fight for can save a life. Like people, I get emails. I'm going against the biggest entities. I get emails, but I'm not trying to take away weapon. I'm taking away the 100-round drum that was used in my shooting. I wish it would have been 0 lives taken that night, but instead of 9, if he had a regular clip, maybe there only would have been 2. Even they're going up against this. People with manpower, it doesn't make sense. So, we're just trying to get things that we can't stop everything, but we can at least try. We can at least slow it down. And what people got to understand, it does not work overnight. We plant the seed and it continues to filter. But, in today's time, it's like when you put something out there, it's going to be off tomorrow. And some of these things are seed. You have to plant and you have to filter it. There's goods that are already still here that want to be here, but what we can do is try to change it for the future and stuff like that. But so I just want people to know that we're not here to take guns and stuff like that. We just want to make sure that safe, secure storage. If you got a kid at the household, I was a kid. There was one thing you could never tell me I didn't have for Christmas. You can't hide nothing from me in the house. And then I would wrap it back up and then be surprised like I had no for real. But I'm just saying, these kids, we get on the news and we see kids get the gun and kill. I have my little cousin 3 years ago found a gun in the house and killed his little sister. They was 12 and 13. Imagine what my little cousin's going to have to deal with growing up in life knowing that he killed his sister. The aftermath of the trauma. So there's things that we can be prevented about and at least take a chance to try to save a life. One life is worth saving. My heart, I want to save the world. One life is worth saving, and it's worth it. And the work that they're doing, continue to show up in communities, man, it's worth it. I'm sitting up here. I always tell people, it don't matter how many bills I done changed, how many life I cannot get in the car and call this person no more. And if I do, it's either gonna go to somebody else picking up or a voicemail. But what I can do is make sure that she can have a future. And everybody else that encountered the person that has those weapons. And all we doing is slowly, on my way up here, I just heard the law just said they want to try to pass it to make guns for 18-year-olds to get revolvers. The mental mindset is making it a war zone out here in the street that we're already facing.
We're going to talk about some of those laws in a second. We're going to get questions at the end. So we're going to, no, they're fine. We're going to talk about some of the legislation that we're trying to pass in the House. And I know Brent, like you said, she's been there 7 years of public safety. She can give you a whole litany of things. But one of the things we want to learn about tonight is also advocacy. How do you become an advocate, not just for gun laws, but firearms, for safety, for training, and how do you tailor that message? So like Dion said, it's not about taking the guns, it's about having respect for the guns. And it's also about saving lives. And so we have someone here from Moms Demand Action who's going to talk about advocacy. So tell about our group. Many of you know a little about Moms Demand Action, just from seeing them on the TV, but there is so much more about Moms Demand Action, what they do, and we want to just take a minute to tell people how you want to share your story. That's one of my favorite slides. Share your story about how you became part of Moms Demand Action. Give us a little bit about Moms Demand Action, and encourage us on how to be advocates for gun safety.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Liz. Thank you so much for coming today. I am with Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. So that's a really long name. But we are the largest gun safety, gun violence prevention group in the United States. It's not about gun control, it's about gun violence prevention and gun safety. The largest one in the nation with almost 11 million supporters across the country. And sadly, that number grows each time there's a big public shooting. I get a question a lot about, do you have to be a mom to demand action? And the answer is a resounding no. We need everyone. And that's the moms, the dads, the uncles, the aunties, the people who don't have kids, but just care about this public health crisis. So everyone is welcome. And how did I get started in moms? Really, it was a drip, drip, drip of just seeing this in the news. And I had 2 kids. They were in middle school, I think, at the time. And I needed to be able to say to myself and look in the mirror and look at them and say, I tried to do something. I can't fix everything, but I can try. And if I don't try, that's dereliction of duty as a mom. So the happiest thing in my mom's journey is my daughter was going to prom. And I didn't know the parents of the place where she was going afterward. And I totally felt like my dad, right? And I said, I need the phone number, I need to talk to the parents, right? And she, of course, is like, no, which is exactly what I did, 30-some, 40-some years ago. And so I called, and I started with a real softball question. You guys aren't going to have any alcohol, right? And of course the answer is no, right? And I was really confident in that. But I tried it just as the lead-in. And then the mom said, before you even ask, we don't have any guns. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so exactly the conversation that we should be having. And when my kids were small and they were going out and hanging out at other people's houses, I didn't have language to use to ask people. And I struggled. But every time I weighed my discomfort against potentially my dead child, every time my discomfort lost. And so I struggled through it, and it was hard, but I did it. And then eventually, when they got older, I found Moms Demand Action, and lo and behold, we talk a lot about secure storage. And we have a Be Smart program that specifically is about talking about secure storage, normalizing the conversation. Just like the conversation that I was having with those other moms when they were small, and the prom mom as well, normalizing the conversation, we can talk about it. And if she had said, we do have a firearm, but it's locked up, the ammunition is separate, it's also locked, maybe that makes me comfortable. Great. Maybe I'm not comfortable with whatever that answer is. And so that doesn't mean we can't be friends, or our kids can't be friends, but maybe, not in the prom situation, but maybe we're gonna hang out at a different place. We're gonna go to the park. There's other ways to hang out that might make me comfortable. So that's my favorite story. I got off the phone and I cried. I was so happy. She just offered it. It's exactly what we should be doing. So let's see. I had a couple of notes here. And these guys have all touched on a lot of the secure storage piece. No, that's all good. Dion, you talked about how it's not about gun control. It's about the focus on safety. And talking about how so many guns are stolen from cars. And you might be the responsible gun owner, but if it's stolen from your car, then it can be used in a crime. You no longer control it. So the gun locks that are in the back, the gun safes that are in the back, those are the key. That's how we can keep people safe. We do support the Second Amendment. Like you said, it's not going anywhere. So we're going to work with it, and we're going to recognize violence. What happens in the media, the big, the mass shootings that make the news, That's not where the numbers are. It's the daily gun violence that you see all the time. It is the guns by death by suicide. It's the unintentional shootings. There was just a shooting in Toledo, as an example. 2 14-year-olds. They're friends. And just like you're talking about, like, these are 2 families that are now destroyed. One child is dead, and the other is, number one, he has to live with what has happened. And there's also legal action going on. And these are friends. This is not a 2 kids had an argument. This is an unintentional shooting that was preventable through secure storage. So easy access has led to this public health crisis. According to the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's Office, over 4,000 people have died in Cuyahoga County because of a gun since 2001. Each of those 4,000 people has a story. They have a family. They have friends. They have neighbors. We don't have to accept this as normal. We can make a difference, and that's where the advocacy comes from, and talking about the law end of it, and talking to our friends advocating for secure storage. We have supporters who go down to Columbus to provide testimony, support these guys, provide testimony for those good gun bills, and then also to push back against the bad ones. And sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Sometimes we're just trying to make that bad bill a little less bad. And that's a win. That's okay. We also have supporters who are working to help elect gun sense candidates, people working with survivors, so many other opportunities. And Mitty had to scoot out, but if you know high school or college students that are interested in getting involved, we have a flyer in the back that talks about Students Demand Action. And they're in charge. It's not me or the mom figure saying, oh, you should do this presentation. You should hold this rally. No, the students are leading it because they know what's going to resonate with their friends and the other kids at school. And they will be the first to tell you and tell me, I do not know what resonates with their friends. So, let's see. Speaking of Columbus, that supermajority, you mentioned it, you touched on it. That supermajority in Columbus and those in DC, they aren't listening. They just aren't listening. They seem to be dedicated to a thought process of more guns everywhere all the time. So I thank you, Rep. Brewer. I thank you, Rep. Brent, for the work that you are doing. You guys are listening. You're doing the hard work. You're proposing those bills, and we are here to support you. But we know that in the short term, Columbus and DC aren't going to be able to save us. So what can save us, what can really make a difference, is that secure storage. We talked about secure storage in the home. We talked about secure storage in the vehicles. That's a great place to start as you're thinking about moms. Moms Demand Action. And another big piece that secure storage helps, I mentioned it, is suicides. And we have our big little banner thing that talks about the fact that 60% of gun deaths are due to suicide. And that impacts so many people. It doesn't care what color you are, it doesn't care what age you are, it doesn't care how much money you have. Suicide happens across the board. And secure storage can stop that. Secure storage puts another like 10 minutes into that process. That person who's been thinking, I made my decision. I'm going to take this action. And I was talking to a woman that said that the fact that I couldn't get to the firearm, I knew where it was, but I couldn't get to it, that extra time gave her the space to step back, take an extra breath or two, and then get herself to the hospital and check in and say, put herself on, I guess it's a voluntary hold. And that saved her life. And now she does all sorts of advocacy things because she has had this experience. So, secure storage is where it's at. Moms has a lot of different ways that you can get involved, whether it's community fairs or a parade, different things like that. We also have the Survivor Network. There's some cards in the back that you can get information on that. The purpose of Survivor Connect is to really put a human face on this crisis and to connect survivors to each other. In that, make a community of it and put a face on that crisis. Providing resources, direct referrals to resources is a big part of it. And if and when someone is ready, and everybody's on their own continuum as a survivor, if and when they're ready, to give them tools to talk about it, if they want to, not in a pressure way. The last thing that I will mention specifically about survivors is that here in the greater Cleveland area, we have a Reclaim retreat coming up on Sunday, November 16th. It is for survivors. It is about reclaiming a little bit of what gun violence has taken from you. And we have a very broad definition of survivor. It's not just someone who has been physically impacted by a bullet, but also the people who have lost a person to gun violence. Someone has been killed. It could be a teacher whose student has been killed. It could be those ER nurses and staff who see gun violence day in and day out. It really is a very broad definition. So you can go to the website, moms, plural, demandaction.org. There's an events tab. It is on, like I said, November 16th, and we would love to see you. Please RSVP because we're planning food. It's an all-day free event, and we would love to see people there, and that's my plug. And I talked about Students Demand Action. There's a flyer in the back. We talked about Survivor Connect. We talked about advocacy. Did I miss anything? Am I good?
No, you're good.
Okay.
Thank you. The last, I'm going to get you out in about the next 10 to 15 minutes. The reason I brought Brent, you heard us, a lot of people talk about legislation. And we're just going to go over some brief legislation. You can stand up, sit down, it doesn't matter, you know. Let's see if we can get this movement. Maybe not. Really not. See, this is why I need
Hey, while he's getting that working, I forgot to mention one thing. Inside each one of these little gun lock bags that you'll get, in addition to the lock with 2 keys, is a little booklet. This is Project Child Safe. This has been going on since like the early 2000s from the Department of Justice, but it's got safe handling tips, so all the things I told you about how to do it, the instructions are in here for all the different kinds of guns. Plus it gives you some tips on how to talk to kids and how to safely handle and shoot firearms yourself. So Nice little booklet inside, even if you don't have a use right off the bat of the gun.
As we end this, we're going to talk about some of the bad bills. You heard some of the bad bills that we talked about. And a lot of these came through what? Public safety. Remove firearm mufflers, suppressors as dangerous ordinance. Enact the Second Amendment Protection Act. Regards concealed carry location, resident firearm disability, and exempt firearm ammunition from sales and use of tax. Anything like those bills?
So, people don't like coming to public safety a lot of times because I sit in public safety. If you watch us in committee, I ask a lot of questions because history has a way of repeating itself and they keep on bringing back problematic bills. And so our job in committee is to really bring it home on why you want to use this in a harmful way. So when you think about why would somebody want to get rid of, remove firearm mufflers, suppressors as a dangerous ordinance? Why would you want to literally silence guns? We want to be able to hear guns. If somebody's shooting in your neighborhood, that's how we know something is happening. And so when you think about what is the intent, who are you trying to help do bad crimes? And so we want people to be put on the record for that. So all our biggest thing is, how many questions can we ask?
That's two. Depending on, we go back around, maybe let's go around. Sometimes we're getting a couple of kids. There's ways we sneak them in, trust me. We got a tag team. That committee, we got a tag team.
So the goal is to how do we shame people and make people feel bad about what we're doing. That's the biggest goal of all of this. We have this other bill. I don't know if you're what's the next bill?
I'm sorry, are you saying in your hearing board you only have 2 questions?
2 questions.
Yeah, 2 questions. And so every chairperson is very different. Some chairs let you ask as many questions as possible. What's happened is that we have a couple police officers. You have myself who sits on a police community police board for the state. We have a ranking member who's a former police officer. We also have we have 4 former police officers and a police sheriff and just some and then all the Democrats are black on public safety. It just happened to work out like that. So we just always have a lot of good questions. Yeah.
These are some of the good bills that we have talked about. Safe arm, fire, storage resolution, House Bill 148. That is a bipartisan bill. And what it is, it just says that we encourage Ohioans to do safe storage. As you spoke about before, we cannot get safe storage here as a legal requirement here in Ohio. So what we did was try to turn it into a resolution. If you're our joint sponsorship, our co-sponsor was a Republican, Rep. Peters. She talked about how in her community that she represents, she had a 3-year-old, I think it was a 3-year-old, who got access to a gun and shot the pregnant mom. And so, once again, she's been very advocate for safe storage. Again, Safe Firearm Storage Education Act. Once again, another bipartisan bill. And you see this is very bipartisan, but never gets anywhere. Bipartisan bill where we're just saying that we put together a multilingual firearm safety materials that we put in public spaces in the schools, where they talk about how to safely, like a little thing we have back there, how to safely store your guns. In addition to that, how to also some techniques, maybe stop the bleed, things of that nature in there. Safe Play Act, once again, another bipartisan bill. What we're doing is trying to establish grant programs to renovate and build playgrounds around the state of Ohio. What we're asking for is $6 million for the unclaimed funds. They gave $600 million of the unclaimed funds to the Browns. So we're asking for some of that money to be used to fix some of the playgrounds around Ohio. What it is, if the community chips in a percentage, we kick in the next percentage. We know that playgrounds, green spaces are great places where people learn and gather, and people and our kids need places to go and things to do. So that's part of the reason why we put that together. Closing the Boyfriend Loophole Act, that is another bill that we are working on. That came from one of our interns. She was a victim of domestic violence with a firearm, but she could not prosecute the person or get it taken away because it was a boyfriend and not a spouse. And so we're trying to close that loophole that says boyfriends or significant others or partners can also be part of that. Building the Healthy Community Act. That was another bipartisan bill last year. We have not introduced that yet. But what that is, a grant to declare gun violence a public health crisis here in Ohio. And communities that do it receive money for community violence intervention programs, Office of Gun Violence. You know, Cairo County just opened up office. Maisha Watkins, who was at the conference you're probably at, was together. She couldn't be here today, or she would have been here to talk about the Office of Cairo County Violence. And allow localities to regulate firearm conduct. Wouldn't it be nice, Chief and Mayor, if you could have your own gun laws that relate to your specific city?
Most of these bills that are really good are actually Rep. Brewer's bills. You know, some of my colleagues, and I was scared to say this and give you back the mic, a lot of my colleagues like to always talk about themselves. He's not really that good at that, so I wanted to give a shameless plug that most of these good bills are his actual bills that he's introduced.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. You know, and the part of that is many of them are bipartisan. You don't know how hard it is to get some of the bipartisan bills. Last year, just to give you a brief history, we did next one. Another bills, firearm safety, sales tax exemption, sales tax exemption. What we're asking for is just a sales tax exemption on gun safety devices. We want, when you buy a firearm, buying a safety device is just like you're buying a mouse for your computer. And so we just want a sales tax exemption. Last year it was 2 Democrats. This year it's bipartisan. And my bipartisan joint sponsor also wants to add in their training. So she wants training as you do firearm safety training to be sales tax exempt as well. There's another bill that's just got a hearing to do sales tax exemption during the holidays. I think it's February through some months, whatever we have you. But we're confident that hopefully this will go in. Access to school meals. And we'll talk about this a little bit later. Brenda, I want to give her the mic as we go to the end of the slide. We know there's a SNAP crisis here in Ohio that's going on now. But even before there was a SNAP crisis, there was a meal crisis. There are so many young people in the state of Ohio, as in fact maybe in the district I represent. But there's young people in Ohio who has like lunch debt as low as $5 who don't have access to food. They literally cannot get school lunch because they have lunch debt. And so we're just saying that if a student is in school and you have lunch, give it to them. Yes, their parents still be responsible. We know some crimes, got many stories that happen with firearms because children are hungry. And so we're just saying feed the young people. Resolution recognizing victims of gun police involved deaths. That was just introduced. Establishment of gun task force. Again, this is a task force to bring together state leaders, public health experts, and community voices. This is the same task force when Governor DeWine was the lieutenant governor that he established. The only difference we made this time was we added survivors. We also added some groups that deals with guns. Oh, free lunch? It's only about Chief said the cost of free lunch, only about $300. And we average about $350 million. And we have how much in the rainy day fund? $6 billion. We only have $6 billion in the rainy day fund. It only costs like $350 to feed all the kids in Ohio. Who am I to, to bring up those figures? Support for Stop the Bleed. How many know about Stop the Bleed? How many have the training? We're going to do the training. Stop the Bleed is a training I think everyone should learn how to do in the state of Ohio. Once again, that is almost bipartisan. We are almost there to that bipartisan bill being introduced. We just got to find a way to get our bipartisan sponsor to jump on the bill. We're trying to not make it mandatory. We're not trying to have another unfunded mandate. So we're trying to find a way to make sure these type of trainings are held in community centers. They're held in schools. Stop the training bleed is something that definitely needs to be practiced here in Ohio. And the last one, handgun safety tax credit. This is a tax credit to complete firearm safety training and purchase safety secure devices. This is another bill. And there's another bill that's coming out to do a tax exemption or income tax. Once again, bipartisan. Another rep for if you take the carry concealed weapon training.
So I always like to be the other voice on his shoulder right here. And someone's probably saying, like, these are just great bills. Why aren't they receiving committee hearings? Why aren't they receiving support? It all has to do with who was funding these caucuses. You notice I didn't say which particular caucus. If it's campaign donations determine what bills get passed. So if you have organizations that are very pro-gun, pro-access to gun, and they're telling the leaderships on both sides of the aisle, if you pass this bill, we're not going to fund your candidates. And we're going to take it, or we're going to run somebody against you. We're going to take away your donor because we know your top donors. So these great bills that he's introducing do not get to see the light of the day, even with bipartisan support, because it comes down to the money. And we keep on seeing that over and over again of bills that will continually be done. And that's why I think it's so great what he's doing right now, because it's highlighting something, because we have to put public pressure that the need of the voices of Ohioans is more important than money. And that's what's really happening, that money has become more of a factor than the safety of Ohioans.
Thank you. So you reminded me about that Stop the Bleed training, and I did it a month or so ago through Jen's organization. It is excellent, and it's something I learned. I went because I'm here, I'm mom's, right?